Hi, I'm Kevin. Today I'm going to make some bannock that looks and tastes like bread, and I'm going to bake it on my camp stove inside my billy can. So to make this recipe, you're going to need a couple of other things. The secret to this bannock recipe is that I knead the dough. That's what makes the bannock look and taste like bread. To make that easier, I'm going to use this. This is a plastic wash basin, just the right size to get your hand in and knead 2 cups of dough. It's made of plastic and it's very cheap, and I bring this along anyways to help me wash dishes on a canoe trip. So the other thing you're going to need is a baking dish. This is a little 4-inch wide by 2-inch tall aluminum baking dish. I'll put a link below to where I got this from. It's just the right size to bake 2 cups of bannock dough in. And the other thing you're going to want to do is put something in between your billy can and this dish to create an airspace so that you do not transfer heat from the billy can to the baking dish. You don't want to burn the bottom of this. So I'm going to use this. This is a windscreen from my other stove. I'm going to set it inside the billy can and put this on top. And it's going to create about a gap of about 1/2 inch. You could use other things, rolled up aluminum foil, put 3 or 4 aluminum foil balls in there and set this on top. Perfect. You could cut some aluminum tubing if you have some. Again, about 1/2 inch should work fine. Don't use copper. Copper, again, will conduct the heat from your billy can to your baking dish and burn the bottom. You don't want that.
So I'm going to dump 2 cups of my bannock recipe into this dish, and I'll put 2 versions of the recipe down below. Next, I'm going to add some water. I've gotten pretty good at this, to just add a little bit of water at a time and mix it in. You want it to mix nice and smooth. And unfortunately, folks, I eyeball the water. I can't tell you how much I put in. I put in enough just to make the dough sticky. After a while, you might find the dough dries out a little bit. I go back and I'll add 1 more teaspoon of water at a time. And then I'll mix it up again. The outside will feel really gummy and gluey, but in a minute or 2, it'll be the consistency we want. I find that to get this to cook properly, it needs to be a bit sticky. Now this is what I consider the most important part. I knead the dough. A lot of people just fry their bannock in a frying pan. That's great, but you're going to get really crumbly dough. If you want your bannock to look and feel and taste like bread, knead it for at least 8 minutes, if not 10. If at any point in time you think the dough is getting a little bit dry, just add a tiny little bit of water, no more than a teaspoon, and continue to knead the dough.
So towards the end, your dough should look like pizza dough, basically. A little bit sticky, very pliable, and very elastic. You form it into a ball, and you're ready for baking. Okay, the stove is on. I'm going to put it on low. Get my billy pot ready. So I'm going to bake in this billy pot, but I need to create a gap between the bottom of the pot and the baking vessel. So I'm going to use this. This is a windscreen off of my other stove. I just find it very handy to use. You can use rolled up aluminum or a windscreen made of aluminum that you just fold up. You need to create some sort of gap. A section of aluminum tubing would be great. Don't use copper though. You don't want the heat to transfer from the bottom of this pot into your baking vessel. So I'm going to put this in on the bottom, and my baking vessel is going to sit on that. The other thing I'm going to do though is put a little bit of water in here. Just a teaspoon is all. It's going to help the bread steam a little bit as it bakes. Okay, that's ready to go. So this is my baking vessel. This is a 4-inch wide by 2-inch high baking pan, and I'm going to put a little bit of oil in that. Just enough to coat the bottom. Maybe a little bit extra. I'm going to take the dough that I just finished kneading. I'm going to put it in top first and spin it around in that oil. Okay, and then I'm going to put it in the oil the other way, like that. That's ready for baking. I'm going to put this in here on my windscreen to create a bit of a separator. I'm going to put the lid on this, and I'm going to put this on the stove. Remember, my stove is set fairly low. That's 15 minutes total. Let's take a quick look just to check. Looking very good, but not brown, so we'll leave it longer. Just to ensure even baking, I'm going to spin this around partway through the process. So I don't know if you can see it. Steam is starting to come out of the pot. The original water that I put in there is long evaporated. That's the steam from the bread itself. Eventually this bread is going to crack as the steam escapes. This is good. This is part of what we want to see. The aroma is really changing. It's starting to smell like bread is cooking. Okay, that's been 30 minutes. Let's take one more peek here. See where we're at. Nice. Brown. The bread is starting to crack and starting to brown. We're happy about that. 35 minutes in. Let's take one more look. It's starting to smell like cooked bread. Oh, looking pretty good. It's not as brown as I want, but I think I'm going to take it out. The aroma smells like it's done. So I'm going to turn off my stove. This is a bit of a challenge because this pot is quite deep, but with my leather gloves, I'm going to dump my loaf out into my hand. This is very, very hot, so I'm going to put that down and let that cool. Okay, in a couple of minutes this has cooled down enough to handle. I can remove the bread from the pot. It's looking good. A little bit dark on the bottom, but it sounds hollow like bread should. To get a little bit darker brown on top, I think I should have drizzled a little extra olive oil on top of that afterwards. But yeah, looking good. That's a mini loaf that will last two people 2 days if that's what we use for lunch. And it'll last one person 4 days easily. You tap it, it sounds hollow like real bread should. And I'll leave it on a rock and let it cool off so we can pack it away for tomorrow.
After the bread cools, we'll store it in a Ziploc bag and keep it in our food barrel until it's time to use. This bannock looks and feels like real bread. We'll cut into it and check out the insides. I'm really happy with this. It turned out very well, and I hope you give this recipe a try.
Thanks for watching. I hope you have a good day.